Oh, hello. Welcome to another Today's Decay, where we celebrate births and beginnings of everything important since the dawn of time. Louis, it is February 28th, and we're gonna have a book day today. Yeah, I feel like it's a good day to crack open some books, because on this day in wrong. On this day in 1865, Moina Mathers was born. Moina Mathers is featured in a bunch of books, but this one in particular is the one I've got, Women of the Golden Dawn. Here she is here. These were all Victorian era rebels who embraced the occult and the arts, the dark arts, and were a precursor to Aleister Crowley in defining their world as they wanted to, which I guess we talked about yesterday somewhat. But here's I think the early Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn are the 1800s, almost 100 years earlier, the 1800s version of the Bromley contingent, and Moina Mathers being one of them. Also, on this day, 1875, we're not even cracking 1900 today. No. 1875, Maurice Renault was born. I think I figured out how to speak French. You just really cut the last couple of letters off. Renault. Here's one of his books. New Bodies for Old, or The Strange Experiments of Dr. Lerna. Lerna? I don't know. Yeah, you just cut the last couple of letters off. And you're that much further along in your sentence, and it's almost like the difference between miles and kilometers. You're that much further along in whatever you're saying. Maybe in life, right? Yeah. So anyway, Maurice Renault was considered the French H.G. Wells for the Victorian and Edwardian age, writing. Oh, here, this one from a dedication to H.G. Wells. So it's really interesting because a good deal of his work is hidden in French from the English-speaking world, at least, because his stories were barely ever translated into English, and when they were, the translations apparently were really lacking. So, New Bodies for Old is a science fiction story with mad doctors and moving consciousnesses into inanimate objects, into the bodies of cows, blades of grass, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while since I've read this, but this is this one in particular was printed translated into English and printed in the 20s. If there's something he's probably most well known for, I guess you could say, would be Hands of Orlac. This is the English translation with a repro dust jacket from 1930 or so. Hands of Orlac was printed in French, maybe early 20s? I forget the exact date. It's got to be at least the early 20s, if not the teens, because it was made into, at least that I know of, the first film adaptation of it would have been the Conrad Veidt one from 26-ish, right? So it then becomes Mad Love, starring Peter Lorre as Dr. Gogol, opposite Colin Clive and Francis Drake, right? Yeah. Yeah, and it's a great movie. And then later on, it's made into Hands of Orlac again with Christopher Lee, right? I've never actually seen that one. That's crazy. Anyway, this book is really interesting in the way it's written, and it's not how I expected, because I loved Mad Love, the 1935 film, and I was really surprised that this handles the same subject matter but in a very different way. always fascinated by this, like how films that are really great are changed by whoever's adapting the source material into script form, and like, what makes the cut, what doesn't, how do they want to present this or not. So it's all about the people adapting it to film's own interpretation, right? So that transitions into, I've embarrassingly never read these, but here are Maurice Tourneur books: Dr. Lerna, which is New Bodies for Old, The Blue Peril. Yeah, so these are both relatively modern, like in the last 15-ish years, I'd say. English retranslations. So they're throwing out what was done in the 20s because apparently it loses a lot of the nuance and appeal. So like Dr. Lerna, for instance, often hailed as the best French science fiction writer of the early 20th century, Maurice Renaud coined the term scientific Marvel fiction to pen a series of gripping, groundbreaking stories that owe as much to Edgar Allan Poe as they do to H.G. Wells. Until now, Renaud was best known for his English-speaking public for his thrice-filmed thriller, The Hands of Orlac, dedicated to H.G. Wells. Maurice Renaud's Dr. Lerna, 1908, is when it was first published, features a mad scientist who performs organ transplants not only between men and animals, but also with plants and even machines. It is the first of a series of 5 volumes translated and annotated by Brian Stapleford, devoted to presenting the classic works of this pioneer of French science fiction literature. This volume also includes Mr. Dupont's Vacation, 1905, a story about dinosaurs returning to life, and Renaud's 1909 Revolutionary Manifesto on Scientific Marvel Fiction. I mean, that sounds great, right? Yeah, and then this one, The Blue Peril, 1911, which many consider to be Renaud's masterpiece, features invisible alien creatures which live in high Earth orbit and which, feeling threatened by man's incursion into space, retaliate by fishing for men the way we capture fish and studying our species. In spite of the vast progress in the exploration of extraordinary ideas made by 20th century science fiction writers, very few have ventured into territories as exotic as the ones featured herein, and even fewer have done so with the same intellectual boldness and narrative flair, says Brian Stapleford, the guy that put out the book. But, I wouldn't doubt him. This all sounds great. Right? Yeah, so there you go. Born today, 1875. All sorts of good stuff. It's cold out there. Why not curl up with a good book? Until tomorrow, goodbye.